Good morning. My name's Kelly. I'm with Ryan's RV in Everett, Washington. Here today we're going to do a walkthrough on a 2017 Winnebago Minnie Winnie 25C. We rent multiple units exactly like this, as well as another 5 or 6 that are 22 feet long, just a little shorter, but essentially the walkthrough would be exactly the same. So if you're looking at renting a 22 or a 25 from us, this would be the walkthrough for you to watch. I'm going to move along pretty fast. This isn't what I would consider everything you need to know, but it's close, and we'll give you the rest on the walkthrough when you show up in person. So, with that being said, here we go. First thing we're going to go over is how you get the unit set up in the campsite. So typically you're going to pull into a campground or where you're going to camp. There's going to be a place for you to back into. Most smaller RV sites and campgrounds are designed for you to back in. That being said, you're going to do a walk around of the site before you back in. Make sure there's no debris, no nails with boards, that kind of stuff. And you're going to back the motorhome in a spot where you can reach your hookups, provided you have them. So for your power, your water, if you have sewer, you want the back end of the motorhome close to where those facilities are. They're almost always designed to be at the back driver's corner of the motorhome. The hoses that we send with you are good enough for 25 feet or so. So if your power connection and your water connection are within 20 feet, you should be fine. Your sewer connection, you want to be closer than that. You don't want to run a hose that long. Hose that we send you with is good for about 12 feet. Really shouldn't be an issue if you've got sewer in your site. So after we've checked it out, we've backed the motorhome in, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get it level. Pretty critical that we get it reasonably level from front to back. Side to side is more for your comfort. Obviously, if it feels like you're crooked on the inside, yeah, that's not good. Let's try again. Most every site that you're going to rent is either going to be pavement, it's going to be concrete, it's going to be gravel, hard pan, something pretty firm. We happen to be on grass here, so I put down some big blocks that aren't generally supplied because you don't need them. But on top of that, we're going to use our RV leveling kit. We send with you 10 of these orange bricks that we call RV Legos. They stack up just like Lego bricks. To finish getting the motorhome level, I'm just going to put a few of these down in front of the front tire. I've already done the same thing on the other side. I'm going to pull the motorhome up on those, and it will be pretty level from front to back by the time I'm done. Now, reasonably level, if you've watched any of the other videos, we just tell you it needs to feel comfortable on the inside, and if you were to put a pan on the stove, put eggs in it, the eggs are in the center of the pan, they're not hiding in one of the corners, okay? The only other thing to mention about these orange bricks or any kind of blocks, when I pull the tires up onto those bricks or blocks, the entire width of the bottom of the tire needs to be square on that brick or block so that I don't have half the tire on and half the tire hanging off. That's important so I don't get tread separation and you have a tire failure on the way home. Alright, so I'm just going to pull the motorhome forward up on these guys.
Kind of dirty.
So now our motorhome is fairly level from front to back. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to hook up our utilities. So typically the first thing that we hook up, and sometimes the only thing that you have to hook up to, depending on the site, is power. So I'm going to reach into my compartment that's got this sticker on it that says that it's for 110 to 125 volt AC. That's where I'll find my power cord. The end of my power cord should be plugged into an outlet inside this box. We'll show you that in a minute or two. That box is the power from the generator. I like to say that our power cord is always plugged in somewhere. It's either plugged into an outlet at a campsite or your house, or it's plugged into that box from the generator. That box that's in here, that little outlet that's in here, is the power supply from the auxiliary generator, APU for you marine people. So when we're going down the road, if I need to run the air conditioner, I need 110 AC power, I can start the generator. The generator supplies power to that box. This cord supplies power to the motorhome. If this cord's not plugged in, the motorhome doesn't have power. Okay? So I'm going to pull this cord out. And I'm going to come show you here real quick. This is what a 30 amp RV power cord connection looks like. If I'm going to plug in a park or I'm going to plug in anywhere else and I want to run the air conditioner, I need this outlet. Now some people will ask me, hey, I'm looking at a site, I've got a 50 amp site, will that work? Yes, it will work. Virtually every 50 amp site I've ever seen, if it has a 50 amp outlet, which is actually 4 prongs, not 3, right underneath it has a 30 amp, because it's just a little less power, okay? So I'm going to take this and plug that into my RV outlet. Okay, I've plugged that in. To check if I have power, the easiest way to do that now would be to go inside and look at the microwave, or have somebody on the inside tell me. As soon as I plug that in, my microwave lights would have come on. That's the easiest way to tell if I have power. If I plug that in and my microwave lights have not come on, whatever I plugged into doesn't have power turned on. It's probably got a breaker that's thrown, something like that. Figure it out, check with the park ranger. If you're plugged in, microwave lights are on, you don't have power. Okay? Next, I'm going to hook up my water. That is the next most common thing that we're going to have in an RV site. And I've got 3 places to hook a freshwater hose. Now this is a specially lined freshwater hose that's designed to make it be that you don't smell like a garden hose when you're taking a shower. It's not going to make your water taste funny, okay? It's a freshwater drinking hose. So right here I've got a sticker and a deal that says City Fill, okay? I actually think fill is kind of a misnomer because you're not filling anything. When I hook this up, I'm just providing water pressure to the motorhome through the hose. I don't need my water pump. I'm not using my onboard fresh water tank. I'm just using the hose pressure. We're also supplying you with one of these brass fittings, and we'll show you a picture of those up close in just a second. Please bring this back or we have to charge you for it. They're about $15. Their function is to make sure that we don't put too much water pressure to the RV. The RV is designed for about 40 psi. If I hook up to a high pressure outlet like I'm about to do, I happen to know this one is very high pressure, it's more than double that. Without this water pressure regulator, I'm going to blow the valve for my toilet. I'm probably going to blow some of the seals for my faucets. There's going to be water everywhere, and now I can't use my plumbing system until I get professional repair services done, and that would be your responsibility. You have to use a water pressure regulator. So I'm just going to take this, screw it on to a normal hose bib or faucet that I would have in an RV park, turn the water pressure on, and I'm good to go. The first time I do that, when I open a faucet, I may get a little air or something coming through, but it'll just be for a few seconds and then everything's fine. So now I've got my power cord hooked up. I've got my water hose hooked up. The last thing to do if I have sewer is to hook up my sewer hose, okay? So I've already skipped ahead a little bit. We've got a sewer hose here set up that's in the ground. The hose that we give you, we'll show you on the walkthrough, does have a threaded fitting that goes into the ground. I would take the threaded fitting off, put it into the RV park's threaded fitting, screw it around, and then it snaps on just real easy. It's just a snap lock. You'll see how that works quite simply. I take the RV end of the hose, and again it's just got 2 teeth with a snap lock. I come down here where I can see it says black and gray tanks. Just underneath, we'll show you a close-up in a second, I have a twist off cap that's just got teeth like the sewer hose. I take that, get that out of the way. I take my sewer hose, put on the end of the pipe, twist and lock. Once that's twist and locked on there, I know that I am set up. So once I've done that and I've made sure that the business end of the hose is secure in the ground. That's very important, and if you got any questions, we'll go over that again on walkthrough. But when I pull the black tank, if I've got sewage in the RV itself, when I pull my black tank valve, which is right here, which I would normally do first just by pulling straight out, it pulls down about 3 inches. All the sewage is going to run through this hose. Okay? When that happens, if this end of the hose is not secure in the ground, it might try to walk out of there, make a little bit of a mess. We don't want that. So you always make sure this end is secure. Your dump stations, most RV parks, mini campgrounds, sometimes your campsite, freeway rest areas always have dump stations. We've got several near us that do when you're on your way back. Tell us on the walkthrough where you're going. We'll tell you where the last one is to dump on your way back. If you don't dump the tanks, we have to go do that for you. There is a fee for that. Okay, so I've pulled my black tank. 30 seconds or 3 minutes later, it's done. I know it's done because the hose quits moving. I can't hear it anymore. I close that valve. I grab the gray tank valve, which is right next to it. I pull down sharply on that. The gray tank is my sink and my shower. Okay, my black was my toilet. The gray is my sink and my shower. That water is going to rinse out our sewage. That's going through the hose right now. As soon as that's done, and again, I'll know it's done because I can hear it. Hose quits moving. I close that valve and my tanks are dumped. Now, if in your RV site you have a sewer hookup, you probably want to leave the gray tank open. And the reason I say that is the shower tank, or the gray tank on this motorhome where your shower water drains into, is only good for about 4 showers, maybe 5. Keep in mind that RV showers are reasonably short due to the hot water supply. You've only got about a 5-minute shower, sometimes 6.5 if it's a warm day. As that tank gets full, the shower water itself will back up into the shower pan. And if you look down and you're standing in water that's not draining, your tank's full, you're done. You're going to have to get that tank emptied before you go. Again, if you're in a site that has sewer hookup, you can leave that gray tank valve open and you don't have to worry about your gray tank filling up. You do not leave your black tank valve or your sewage tank open. The reason for that simply is on Class C motorhomes and most travel trailers, the tanks are almost totally flat on the bottom. And because this is just a gravity flow and we have a level motorhome, if your solid waste and toilet paper drops down and the valve is open, the liquid will run off, the solids and the paper don't, and you end up with kind of a accumulated mess in the bottom of your holding tank. Eventually that will plug your toilet, you won't be able to flush anymore, and it makes for a big problem. So we leave the black tank valve closed, but we can open the gray tank valve, take all the showers we want. The day before I'm going to leave my site, I'm going to close the gray tank valve so I do accumulate some water in there. That allows me to rinse the hose out with the gray tank like I talked about earlier. It's really a fairly simple concept. You just can't have too much in your tanks, and you want to make sure you've got some gray tank water to flush out the sewage. Okay? So I've got my water hooked up, I've got my power cord hooked up, I've got my sewer hooked up, I'm level. I'm now ready to set up camp and enjoy my motorhome. That whole process should take you 5 minutes or so. It's really not a big deal. Okay? Since we're on the driver's side of the motorhome here, I'm going to cover a few more things really quick so we won't have to come back here. You will see a spot on the back here that will take a water hose. It says Santa Flush. Okay? All that is a flush out for your black tank or your sewage tank. If you were to get too much toilet paper accumulated in the tank and you wanted to rinse it, this would give you an easy way to do that. I don't expect most renters to need or want to do this, but that is why it is there. Here we have a cable in feature. Many parks do have cable. State parks are never going to have cable. Remote parks are never going to have cable. If you're staying in something that is a KOA in a metropolitan area, or a nice RV park that's, well, if you're staying in an expensive RV park, let's just say that, they will probably have a cable hookup for you. We don't supply cable ends. Less than 1 in 20 of our renters use them. If you think that you're going someplace that has cable, please bring a 10-15 foot cable from home. We already talked about the city fill. This here is quite important. We've got your furnace output here. This gets very hot, and inside here, inside the furnace, there is open flame. This is your hot water. Inside here there is open flame. Your hot water heater blows a blue flame about that big around and about that long to get your water heater or get your water up to temperature. That process takes about 20 minutes from the time I turn it on the inside. The reason that this is very important that I want to show this is if you look at open flame here and open flame here, when I'm getting gasoline, I've got open flame just a few feet away if I haven't remembered to turn those off on the inside. So when you're going to get gas for your motorhome, and please remember to bring it back full, we charge you if you don't, just like a rental car, I need to make sure that those things are off. And we'll go over that when we're on the inside, but you definitely want your hot water heater and your furnace off when you're adding gasoline. When you're adding gasoline, unleaded is fine as long as it is 87 octane or higher. Some states have 85 octane. We don't have much of it here. That is not an option for these RVs. If you do that, it can cause engine damage, and we will test the fuel if you have an engine problem, because these Ford motors just never die. They're very reliable. 89 octane or better if you're doing mountain passes is recommended. This guy right here, if I open this compartment, this is my propane tank. Now the propane tank is fixed in this motorhome. It has a capacity of about 10 to 12 gallons. That's more than enough in the summer for you to get by for a couple of weeks just fine without having to fill it, provided you're not leaving your hot water heater on all the time and you're not using your furnace much, if at all. In the fall, spring, some of the shoulder seasons, if it's chilly at night and you're running your furnace a lot, very possible that you would need propane after as 4, 5, 6 days like that. You can get propane filled when you're on the road at most campgrounds, at most RV dealers, mini truck stops, most U-Hauls. There's lots of places that fill propane. You just simply pull the motorhome up close to the propane fill on the driver's side. The professionals will do the rest. Okay? The only other thing to talk about here is there is a valve right here that looks just like a hose faucet, just like I'm turning on a hose. That has to be on for me to have propane on inside the motorhome. In the event my liquid propane detector went off, or my alarm inside, which we'll show you in a minute, I need to turn that off. Okay, that's the only other time you should really need to get in here, unless you are taking a ferry. Washington State and Canada ferries all require your propane tank to be turned off. In most cases, they will actually check it for you. If not, there'll be a little tag you got to put on there that certifies that you turned off your propane tank. The last thing on this side is the generator. We touched on that earlier. This is a Onan 4,000 watt generator. This is plenty of auxiliary power for you to run the air conditioner on the roof. You will need the air conditioner on the roof if you are parked and not plugged into a good AC source and it's hot. You may also need it when you're going down the road if it's a really nice, we have a beautiful day today. I'm glad we got the weather for this video. If you're going down the road and it's 75, 85, 90 degrees, your cab air conditioner is only designed to cool this cab area. It's not going to keep the motorhome cool. For your guests in back, they're going to be unpleasantly warm, especially on an 85 or 90 degree day. You have to start the generator, which we can do from inside the coach. We'll show you that in a little bit, and then you'll have power to run your air conditioner, which takes about 25 amps of 120 volt power. Okay, and again, when I unplug from the campsite, I'm going to plug my cord into the generator outlet, so I have that option. With the generator running, I also have the option of watching TV. Using my microwave. My 110, 120 volt outlets will all be live, so things like hair dryers, curling irons, coffee pots, electric griddles, all of those can be ran. But an important side note, if I'm running any of those things that are designed to create heat, I can't run the air conditioner at the same time, because again, the air conditioner takes about 25 amps of what this puts out of 30. All of those things that create heat use more than 5 amps. Most of them use about 15. You'll overload the generator. If that happens and I forget, we all forget sometimes, I left the generator on and someone else I'm traveling with plugged in their curling iron, for example, the generator will stay running, but I lose AC power to everything in the coach. And again, the easiest way of seeing if I have AC power inside the coach is if the lights come on the microwave. If they're off, I've lost power. So my generator is running, somebody plugs something in, it's still running, but I don't have any power inside the coach. Turn off the air conditioner, unplug that device that's designed to create heat, come out here to the generator. Okay, we're in the generator compartment. This is the Onan cover. I've got two tear-shaped knobs right here. I'm going to turn the knobs sideways. Oh, that one already was sideways. Pull this out toward us a little bit. I lift up and drop down. And now I have dropped the generator door down off of the motorhome. Inside, I've got a manual start switch. We're not going to start it because it's awfully noisy for the video. The two things in here that you really need to see. My index finger is on a circuit breaker. Let me do that again here. It's on a circuit breaker right there. That circuit breaker right now is in the on position where it is pulled forward. If it was tripped, it would be in the back position. So I'm going to reach in, grab that circuit breaker with my finger, and pull it forward. Once I do that, I have restored the output from the generator, and I'll have AC power inside the coach again. Okay? The second thing that we want to show right here This generator, even though they're about $4,000, does not come with an oil pressure shutoff. So we ask our clients for every 20 hours that they run the generator, they come out just real quickly without the generator running, which is important, and make sure that we still have oil on the generator dipstick. This one is absolutely fine. And the generator, or the coach does need to be level when you perform that test, otherwise it doesn't really do any good. We send you with generator oil and gloves. So if you're going to be set up for some place like, oh, I don't know, maybe a concert at the Gorge, we get a lot of clients that do that, and you're running the air conditioner nonstop, once every day or two, you need to be checking the oil for that generator to make sure that you don't run it out of oil. Okay. We make sure that the oils are changed regularly in these, as well as the motorhome. So let's put it back on. Sorry, we lift the door up, drop it into shape, close it, and then we turn these tear shape buttons back so they're pointed toward the ground. Okay, that's all there is to it. So here we are on the passenger side of the motorhome, or the side of the motorhome that we'll actually be using while we're camping. And one thing you're going to want to consider when you're setting up your spot is the orientation to the picnic table. This picnic table is portable. We can put it wherever we want. Many campsites have fixed picnic tables. If the weather's a little iffy, I normally try to position my motorhome so that I can put the awning out over the picnic table. And simply because we live in Washington, and here in Washington, if we're going camping, if it's not July and August, it's probably going to rain. You can tell that it's rained recently because my awning's still wet. There's a button just inside the door here that says awning out. I hold it out until I can see the aluminum of the awning that doesn't have the vinyl on it, and my awning is now out. So if it was going to start sprinkling on me, I can simply pull that picnic table up here under the awning, and I've got some cover, right? I've got a big umbrella over me. Also, in the back of the motorhome, we'll show you in a minute, we have what's called an awning mat. That's a rubber-backed mat. They're about $100. I can roll that out over this ground area. Many places there's lots of pine needles. Sometimes there's mud, dirt, rocks, whatever it is. Keeps me from tracking all that into the motorhome. I can even leave my shoes outside if I've got my awning out and not track anything in the motorhome to keep the floor nice and clean. Okay? So with the awning out, the biggest thing that you have to remember is you never leave the motorhome unattended with the awning out. Wind gusts of 15 miles an hour can start to damage the awning, and if you get a 20-mile-an-hour gust, which where we are can come up quite unexpectedly, it can damage the awning or take the awning off of the motorhome. In either case, you're kind of stuck. You can't leave your campsite because you can't leave your campsite until your awning goes in, creates a problem. Insurance does not cover awning damage, which is why most national rental companies take the awnings off of their motorhomes or order them specifically without awnings. We have awnings on ours. When I camp, I always use my awning. I like it. I think it's a great piece of equipment. You just need to not leave it unattended, and if it starts getting gusty, you have to put it up. Okay? And that's all there is to bringing the awning in or out. It takes 10 or 15 seconds. There's no reason for you to not put it in anytime you leave the motorhome. The front compartment here, we do have a big long storage compartment here in the front. I've got a latch here and a lock there. It's good for lawn chairs, extra power cords, outside games, anything that isn't critical that it stays dry. These long skinny storage compartments with locks on both ends sometimes will get water in them if you're in heavy rain going down the highway. So a few more things on the outside of the motorhome here. You'll notice this is the refrigerator outdoor service compartment. There's nothing you can do as a consumer in here. Please leave this alone. Here we've got two 120 volt outlets. You can use those provided your motorhome is plugged into the campsite or you have the generator running. These will be live. So if on the outside of the motorhome you want to plug in an electric griddle, you've got an outdoor TV, something else you want to plug in for charging, etc., you can do that here. This is a cable outlet. So if you've got cable hooked to the other side, this would be live cable on this side. If you brought your own little TV, I don't think many people do that anymore. This one is tank fill. Now this one is actually for the water that you you want to take with you when you go down the road. Okay, so while I'm traveling, I like to have at least a third of a tank, or about a third of a tank of fresh water in my freshwater tank. That allows me to wash my hands, to flush the toilet, to do the stuff you want to do to use it for a motorhome. But I'm not taking all the water in the world with me, provided that I know I've got water when I hook up. If you are renting from us and going to an outdoor event that is dry camping, such as the Gorge, any concert at the Gorge, I don't care which campground you're in, you do want your water tank full. Make sure you specify that while we're doing our walkthrough. Full water tanks are not something that we normally do because most people don't want to travel with that much water, and it is your responsibility to make sure we get that water tank full before you leave. Okay? Next to that, we've got our big outside storage compartment. This storage compartment is quite large. It's big enough for just about anything you're going to want to take. Normally we would have the 10-pack of orange Legos in here. We've already got them out because we used them on the front when we set up. This is where we keep our water hose. This is where we keep a little Tupperware tub that's got our sewer hose in it. You always keep those two things very separate, obviously. And we also have the awning mat I was telling you about earlier that's optional. You can roll out to keep things clean inside your motorhome. We tell you the limit back here for what you can put in here needs to be no more than 300 pounds. We always recommend, if you're taking a group in the summer, that you take a cooler. You're generally better off to keep that cooler in the shower rather than out here, because in the shower you can drain it off easier, and you don't have to go outside every time somebody wants a cold beverage. Okay? The last thing to talk about here real quick, just the porch light. The porch light will turn on from just inside the door. There's two switches, one for the porch light and one for the interior main lights in the entryway, so you're not coming in the dark. Okay, let's move inside now and we'll finish up. Okay, we've come inside the motorhome from the outside. First thing I'm going to do is I come in and I've already hooked up. I've plugged in my motorhome, all that. I'm going to verify I've got lights on in the microwave to make sure that I have 120 volt AC power. I do. They're on. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our control panel and see where everything's at. So at this control panel, this is kind of the brain for the motorhome, okay? Tells you what's going on. If the center button that says levels test, if I press and push that, you'll notice I get all kind of lights across the bottom here. So the first one is our black water tank, our sewage, which is showing empty, doing good so far. Gray water sink and shower, empty, doing good so far. Fresh water says I've got 2/3 of a tank. Because I hooked up to a hose, not really sure I care, but that's what your fresh water level is currently in the motorhome. And lastly over here we've got battery charge. Now this is kind of something that can be a little bit misguiding, because anytime the motorhome is plugged into 110, the generator is running, or the engine is running, it's always going to read that the batteries are fully charged. They're not. It's just currently it's a voltage meter. With the extra voltage, they're reading full. If your batteries are low, it will take 3 to 4 hours with being plugged in, with the generator running, or with the engine running, like you're driving down the road, for those batteries to be back up to 100%. Okay? So that's the control panel here. Here you'll notice we have a water heater switch. If I turn that on, the green light comes on, and this pilot light, this red light here, is on. That red light will stay on for 10 to 15 seconds. Okay? Don't be alarmed, that's what it's supposed to do. It will go out after 10 or 15 seconds, and when it goes out, that tells me that my hot water heater is lit. In the event that stays on for 30 seconds or more, I simply want to turn the water heater off, turn it back on once, it will light up. At a quiet campground or site like where we are now, I can actually hear the water heater firing, because remember, it blows a blue flame about that big around and about that long. Sounds a little bit like a distant airplane. Okay. Last here is water pump. If I want to be able to flush the toilet, wash my hands, take a shower, and I'm not using pressure from the hose, I need to turn the water pump on. Once that happens, my faucet will work just like one at home. When I turn the water on, I will hear the pump come on in the background. Kind of makes a sound, all right? That will shut off once it's achieved pressure. If I hear that come on intermittently and shut off when no water is running, yeah, there's a faucet that's open somewhere that's dripping, okay? So above this control panel here at the top, we've got the generator. We will note the generator hours. It's got an hour meter on it, just like most equipment, that tells us how many hours was on it when you left. We'll look at how many hours was on it when you came back. Assuming you had the coach for a week, that's 7 days. We give you 5 hours a day, that's 35 hours. As long as it's less than 35 hours, there's no charge. You can use that all at once. You can use that a little bit throughout. Doesn't matter. No charge, up to $5 a day. Over that, for most RVs, the rate's about $5 an hour. Okay. To start it, I just simply press and hold the start button. The generator will turn over. Sometime in the next 10 seconds it should come on. Right now it's on. You can probably hear that in the background. If I wasn't plugged into 120 volt AC power, that would give me the option of using the microwave, the air conditioner, or my outlets. I'm going to turn that back off for now just by pressing the stop button, and it's done. The generator is fueled from the engine's fuel tank. The engine's fuel tank in all of our Winnebagos is 55 gallons, which is a lot of fuel. Okay, it's tapped in at about a quarter tank though. So if you're almost to where you're going to be camping and you expect to be dry camping and you're below 3/4, maybe down to half a tank, you might want to think about filling up with fuel before you stop and set up camp, because after a few days of using the generator you may end up not having a generator due to lack of fuel. You've got to take the motor home and go fuel up. It's tapped in at a quarter tank so that it can't run you out of gas in your campsite. Really important for those people that go out in the middle of nowhere in the desert, happen to go off and leave their generator on in the morning not thinking about it. They come back, they can still get to a gas station. Okay, above that we have, this is our climate control system. Now on our climate control system we can control both the furnace as well as the air conditioner. The furnace will run perfectly fine without being plugged into a 120 volt power source. It will run off the battery and use propane for heat. At least for a while, a couple of days probably. Okay. If you're going to be dry camping, we'll talk about that more in your walkthrough. Make sure you mention that to us. If you're plugged into 110, you got nothing to worry about. Turn the furnace on whenever you need it, simply by turning this to heat, turning the thermostat up to where you want the temperature. The furnace will come on and blow cool air for 20 to 30 seconds. Then it's going to blow hot air until you're up to temperature. Then it'll blow cool air just like your furnace at home again to cool everything down for a little bit before it shuts off. And repeat as necessary, just like you would have at home. The air conditioner, if I turn this switch to cool, and then I bring the thermostat down to the temperature of the motorhome, the air conditioner comes on. Okay, I'm going to turn that back off so you can hear me. Again, you have to have the generator running or be plugged into a 30 amp power source to be able to use the air conditioner. All right. Doesn't matter where you're at, the air conditioner will cool it down in here. Even if you're 120 degrees in Arizona, God bless you if you're that brave, it'll keep up. It'll get you cool. Okay, so that's what we've got going on there. Let's talk about the kitchen appliances since we're kind of in the center of the coach. This is the stove. Obviously, we've got a stove and an oven. This is the igniter. So if I want to use the stove to cook food, I'm going to turn the knob to high. I'm going to turn the sparker a couple of times, and sometimes it doesn't light right away because I've got breeze blowing in here. So you need to put a pan or something over the top of this. Do not use your hand at home. There we go. Just to trap enough propane for it to ignite, and there we go. Same thing for the back. Normally you just put a pan on and then turn it on and light. It's going to trap enough propane for that to work just fine. If you're going to use the oven is a little more complicated. I need to turn this knob to pilot on. I need to open my oven door. I need to press and hold this in. This will actually push in. While I'm holding that, I take an igniter stick, lighter, a match. Back here in the center, about where my end of my fingers would be, there is a propane orifice that will light. You can see that from underneath. Once that's lit, I continue to hold this for 15 seconds. I close the door. I turn the oven up to on, just to turn that up, and it will come up to temperature. Okay. When you are done, we ask that you do not leave this in pilot on position. Please turn it back off. That is a safety item, because this appliance, if anything is left on, will vent propane into your living environment, which is a really bad idea. Since we're here, we'll talk about this real quick. You have a liquid propane detector, and this one, it's down here underneath the refrigerator. That is kind of like a smoke detector for propane. If that goes off, you'll know it. You don't want to be in here anymore. The only thing that I want you to take a second to check before you evacuate the motorhome, just like there was a fire, is these knobs on the oven and stove. Make sure that they are all four off. Okay, I have seen, well, both times I've seen it was teenage girls talking on their phone, leaning against this, moving back and forth a little bit. They're able to turn it on with their behinds. I'm not that talented, but I've seen it done. If that's on, turn it off. That's why your propane detector's going off. Open some windows, air it out. That's fine. Otherwise, get out. Leave the door open. Doors open. Go to the propane tank that we showed you earlier and turn off the propane, please. Okay. Stay away from the motorhome until this quits working, and don't turn your propane back on until it's been serviced. Propane eliminates oxygen, so you can't breathe it. It's also highly explosive, much more dangerous than gasoline. We don't want any problems with that. I haven't had one in my rental fleet. I don't want you to be the first. Okay? Last note on the oven, if you have toddlers, so you got a 3-year-old that likes to touch and turn everything, best thing you can do to keep everybody safe is just pull these knobs off and throw them in a drawer. Okay, now he can't get you in trouble. Okay, microwave. Microwave in this model, because we have an oven, is not a convection. It's a standard microwave just like you'd use at home. Shouldn't need how to explain that. If you've never used one, yeah, okay, we'll go through it in a walkthrough. You have a light and fan for the stove to help keep it cool in here while you're cooking. Your refrigerator, right here. We've got 3 options. We've got auto, off, and gas. Generally, we will have these on when you pick up. We do try to have these cold when you pick up. Sometimes we miss the boat, but we do try. You should be able to turn this on to auto and leave it on for the duration of your trip. The only exception would be if you're taking a Washington State ferry. Of course, we've got to turn everything off, or Canada ferry. If you're doing that, let's talk about that more on walkthrough. So right now we're plugged into 110. It's on auto. It is using the 110 volt AC power source for power to keep the fridge cool. If I lost AC power for some reason, which I will demonstrate here real quick. So now I've lost AC power. My gas light just came on. It's switched over. It's lit the pilot light on gas, and now I'm using propane as a energy source to cool my refrigerator. 1 tank of propane will keep this fridge going for about 6 months. It uses a very little fridge. It's very efficient, and it'll work just fine while I'm going down the road. Okay? Which reminds me I should turn my hot water heater off. So right now it's on gas. If my AC were to come back on, microwave lights just came back on, refrigerator just went back to 110 AC. It's automatic. That's all you have to do. It's really simple. As most of you probably figured out, here is your 110 breakers as well as your 12 volt fuses. If one of your 12 volt fuses was out, there'd be a red light next to it to tell you which one was out. Your breakers work just like the ones at home. I have maybe one renter in 50 that uses or has a breaker problem or a fuse problem. It doesn't happen very often. Lastly, on the fridge, in the summer months especially, I highly recommend, if there's more than 2 people, that you take a beverage cooler with you to keep your beverages cool. The reason I say that is these fridges work a lot slower than the ones at home we're accustomed to. If you or your guests are opening and closing this fridge every 5 minutes to get something to drink, or what I like to call fridge surfing, because they're bored, look like I've ever done that, the refrigerator won't stay cool. Okay, it can't keep up. So it's important that we've got a cooler for beverages, especially in the summer, so this door isn't getting open and closed all the time. If the refrigerator senses that it's not doing its job, meaning it's not getting cooler over a period of a couple of hours, it will shut itself off, and you'll get a flashing light on the fridge. Next to it, it says check if flashing. Okay, if that happens, yeah, okay, somebody's probably in the fridge too much, or maybe you're parked really off level. That will also do it. That's why we tell you need to be pretty level from front to back. If that light is flashing, you turn the switch off, leave it off for a solid 10 count, turn it back on. Okay? That shouldn't happen. If it happens more than once, something's going on. If you don't know what's going on, you need to make my phone ring. The 3rd time it happens, this is no longer a refrigerator, it is simply an ice box. You'll have to buy some dry ice or something else to keep your food cool in here, or you're going to have warm food. That's just all there is to it. Okay? So again, if it happens twice and you don't know why, probably time for a support call. You're always welcome to call the store during business hours, Monday through Friday. If it's an emergency, we've always got a number that you can text after hours and someone will get back to you. Okay, so we touched on the propane detector. Up here above the bed, you'll notice there's another item that looks like a smoke detector. It's actually a carbon monoxide detector. Typically, the only time we get complaints about that, or if you're stopped for a while, you're in a rest area, or you're parked someplace next to somebody with an engine running and you're getting exhaust fumes inside the coach. If that happens, you need to change your ventilation. For example, if this window is open and that's going off, I'm going to close this window and open a window on the other side of the coach. Something like that, okay? Also, there is a smoke detector on this model that is up front almost to the overhead bed. We all know what that means. It just means that somebody's burning some food, or you're doing something that you're not allowed to do. No smoking of any flavor in any of our RVs, please. If it comes back smelling like smoke, you will lose your damage deposit. Take it outside, take it somewhere else. All right. Also, we have a fire extinguisher that's loaded and ready to go by the door. So now I've covered all of our safety features that we need to go over. Real quick. TV up front. You'll see a 32-inch TV sitting right up front here in the overhead bed. If I want to watch the TV from back here, I simply grab this strap, pull down sharply, give that a pull, TV will come out and face the back. Now again, in virtually all of our models, you must have the RV plugged into 110 or the generator running for this to have power. You have a DVD player right next to it. We keep the remotes in a compartment right over the entry door, just behind me here. Every time I turn the TV on, if I'm going to try to actually watch TV and not a DVD, I'll have to go through the programming function of the TV so it can search for channels. Most of our clients don't do that. Generally, we're taking DVDs or you're streaming video from your iPad or your Android device via an HDMI outlet. There's several HDMI ports on the back of the TV. Okay. Going down the road, if you are using the generator and watching a DVD, which, hey, I had young kids, I know what it's like to hear, are we there yet 300 times? I get it, but you're going to need to put something behind the TV so if you hit the brakes, it can't hit the front wall and damage the front wall. Okay? If you come back with a damaged TV or a damaged front wall, there will be a charge. And again, you will have to have a 110 power source. I do have a couple of specialty units with a extra device added for clients that have CPAP machines. So you can use battery power to create 110 volt AC. If you're one of those customers, ask me about that and we may be able to facilitate your requests. Okay. Incidentally, that also lets you watch TV while you're going down the road without the generator on. Okay, let's talk about when it's time to go to bed. This motorhome has 4 sleeping areas. You've got the double bed in the back. You've got a queen bed in the overhead. It is queen width. It is 8 feet long. So if you've got tall people, probably want to throw them up there in the front. We also have a sofa that folds into a bed most simply. There's a lever right here in the center. If I just pull on this lever, the TV folds up. The sofa folds up kind of flat. I can tuck the seat belts down underneath, and I've got a nice bed there. The last bed that I try to use is the dinette, and I do this so if people are up after other people have gone to bed, or they are up before other people have gotten out, which was always the case in my house. Somebody's got a place to sit. They can read, they can have their cup of coffee, they can work on their laptop, whatever it is that they want to do. But sometimes you need a 4th sleeping area. So when that happens, you're going to take the bottom cushions and kind of flip them into an upright position like so. There's a lever underneath that releases that leg so I can fold it up, and then the table lifts up a little bit, swings down. No, my cushion's still got it in my way. Swings down and will drop into this area between the 2 dinette booths. So you've got a flat surface that goes across kind of like that. Okay? Once I have done that, this cushion can come out. I have to unsnap this guy. That goes in there. That folds down, and you've got a comfortable sleeping area for a couple of kids, 1 adult, or maybe 2 adults if they're getting along really, really well. Okay? So we've covered those two sleeping areas. TV antenna is the last thing. If I'm trying to watch TV, I'm trying to watch a game over the airwaves, I've got the TV programmed, but it's a little fuzzy. I can adjust the antenna simply by turning this, and it's got a booster switch that I have to turn on right here, so I get lights, tells me that I've got power. Okay, we're just about done here, folks, so let's talk about the bathroom really quick. Let me start by saying using the bathroom in an RV is nothing to stress about. A lot of first-timers have a lot of anxiety about what happens, how does it work, where does it go. It's really quite simple, it's quite sanitary, and it's not a big deal. So the things that you need to understand: an RV toilet has little or no water in it when it's at rest, okay? And the reason for that simply is we don't want the water splashing out while we're going down the road, and we want to conserve water. So if you're going to go number one, great. Go number one. When you're done, there's a foot pedal. Just press it. The toilet will rinse, flush, and drops into your tank. If you're going to do more than number one, you need to add water to the bowl. You do that simply by pressing down gently on this lever. You can see the water level rise. Before you use the facilities, you want to add more water than the size of the deposit you're about to leave. Or it's going to smell like an outhouse in the motorhome and you're going to get voted off this island really, really quick. Okay? So we've done our business. You use as little toilet paper as necessary that you can do, or that you can use and still be sanitary. You only use the RV toilet paper that we provide, or if you happen to run out, we usually provide more than enough. If you run out, any RV or marine toilet paper will work just fine. Do not bring Charmin from home. Or any other home brand toilet paper that you're accustomed to. It will cause issues, and I won't be able to help you over the phone. Okay? So we've done that. We've got plenty of water in there for whatever paper we've used. We pressed down hard. That's now flushed into the waste tank, and we're done, ready to go on. Close the lid. Okay? The last thing, if you've got boys or young men and you're going to let them use the bathroom while you're in motion, you need to emphasize that they can't do that standing up while you're driving. It's not safe, and you will have cleanup to do. Okay? Bathroom sink works just like your one at home. Nothing to really talk about there. This outlet is a GFCI outlet. In the 25, it's in the bathroom. In the 22, it's next to the entry door. Every outlet that you can plug things into inside the RV and on the outside of the RV are ran through this GFCI breaker. So if you've got something plugged in outside like a George Foreman grill, okay, that's great. But if it shuts off and everything else still has power but your outlets, it's going to be this breaker right here. You don't need to go looking at the power pole. You don't need to go looking under the bed. It's going to be this guy. Finally, in the shower. So to open the shower door, we turn this knob so it's straight up and down. Give that a tug. There's a little magnetic latch. I'm a pretty big guy, as you can see. I fit in the shower here just fine. The hot water heater gets the water scalding hot. So if you've got young children, it's important that you set the water temperature for them. There is a shut off on the shower head just by moving this dial. So you can get it to temperature, shut it off, put the kid in here, get them wet, soak them up, rinse them off, not have to worry about them burning themselves. Remember, you get 5 to 7 minutes of hot water depending on the outside temperature and the temperature of the water that's going into the water heater. Use them wisely. Okay. Last thing in here to talk about, we do have an exhaust fan. You open the vent by turning this lever right here. Fan on, fan off. Now with all of your roof vents, it's very important that they're down and sealed before you start going down the road. If you hit the freeway with one of these roof vents up, you will come back with a missing or a damaged roof vent, and we will charge you to replace the roof vent. That has to be done before you leave. Finally, air conditioning vents, you'll notice front to back are in the ceiling. You can open and close them to direct the air, whether you know, in whatever direction you want it to cool faster. Okay? I think that's just about everything you need to know. Anything else we'll cover on the walkthrough. We'll talk about driving and some of those things in person. This is a pretty simple unit to drive. There's very little tail swing. Everything we rent does have a backup camera, does have an awning. We do have a hitch so we can put a bike rack on for a little bit extra charge. Any other questions, talk to us in person. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.